And we're live. It's the Mindstate Marketing Hour with our best guest, Will Leach. And I'm Steve Brown, your co-host. And today is how to get your messaging seen and acted on this holiday season. Will, welcome. How was the holidays? How was Thanksgiving?
It was good, buddy. It was good. For those of you who didn't watch last week's show, I went to the Bahamas with the parents. I took my parents and my wife's parents. They got along, Steve. I didn't really doubt it, but I did notice that the men, they kind of always kept the women between them. So you know how it is. It's hard to make friends, and even especially when you're in your 70s and 80s. So, but it was awesome. It was great. Went to the Bahamas for 3 days. So on Thanksgiving Day, I was in a little place called Nassau in the Bahamas. It was great. It was a good time to get away. How about you?
I've heard of that. I wasn't there. Yeah.
Hey.
But, it says, by the way, they're having a hard time streaming to your LinkedIn today. Will, okay. I just got a little message. So sorry, LinkedIn, you guys are missing out because if you listen to this show, then you would be like me, one of the smartest people in marketing, because we get to hang out with Will Leach, and he's the author of a book with a new look, Marketing to Mind States. That's right. It's how to, as I like to say, it's how to use science to connect with your clients. But if we're going to do what the book says, a practical guide to applying behavior design to research and marketing. And so, Will, today, we got the holidays. Last week, we talked about how connecting with people over food is just a real bonding thing, and how to build a team just over some chips and salsa. Maybe a beer.
Yep.
But today, I'm looking for the title right here, is how to get your messaging seen and acted on this holiday season. Where did this come from? Obviously, it's timely, but tell us this backstory.
You know what it is? It's I was on vacation on a boat, and I had no internet access at all. And it was great, guys. I totally think you should go do that. If you ever get a chance to get on a boat where there's no internet access, go do it, because life slows down a bit. But you know what inevitably happens? I come back and I'm sitting on hundreds of emails. And so I'm just going through them last Sunday night, trying to catch up. And little by little, you start realizing how many emails that people are trying to make their Q4 numbers. And so they're kind of like, hey, do you have any extra funds? And they do try to do these things in unique ways. Then I also looked at a whole huge batch of emails from retailers out there or local stores that are trying to either email me or on my Facebook saying we have sales. And it just dawned on me that we always talk about how crowded the marketing world is, and how, there are 6,000 to 10,000 advertisements that most people see on any given day. At this time of year, there has to be more, because I'm getting slammed right now with emails and ads telling me to buy. And I started thinking to myself, if I'm in that situation and I want to drive my Q4 sales, and I want to get to, my messaging seen and also acted on, what can we learn from behavioral science and behavioral psychology to try to stand out from the crowd? Because right now it is very crowded in the world of advertising when people are just trying to make those numbers.
I tell you, I've gotten a bunch of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the little clocks ticking down, so many hours less, all these things that are very, they create anxiety that you might miss out on this thing, but everyone's competing. And it's like, there was a couple I said, I was interested, but I just don't have time for it. And so I had to throw that fish back in the, it's like, I still felt uneasy about it.
Yeah, no, there's so much behavioral science behind that stuff, Steve. I don't think they know what they're doing. We got to talk about Black Friday someday, maybe next year, just before Black Friday, how to get people ready for it, because there's a ton of behavioral science and there's a ton of misuse in behavioral science on Black Friday. So it's I think it's a good topic for us to put on the burner for next year, because there's some really cool things that are happening with Black Friday. But you're right, because it's misused, there is a lot of anxiety and fear of missing out. And what happens, it creates paralysis in some people, where people won't shop anymore, and they justify because it's not there's not the right season, or, I want to give employees a break. No, it's because it's become such a madhouse of anxiety that just people don't want to deal with it.
So we're talking today about how to get your message seen and acted on this holiday season. So So when you say shift your messaging to align with the holiday motivations, what are we talking about?
That's right. So, from my book, Marketing and Mindstates, we talk a lot about motivations and how they are a key factor or an emotional engine to get people to take on an action. And what you know from the book and from behavioral psychology is that the motivation is often at the category level. Meaning, if you are a coach out there, then it is people's motivation around what they desire from a coach that you should be messaging against. Or if you're a retailer selling, clothes, then the motivation you want to integrate into your marketing is people's motivation around buying clothes. So the motivation that you often use in your marketing maps back directly to the product that you're selling. However, during the holidays, motivations change a little bit. It's where there's such a cultural phenomenon at the end of the year with the holidays that actually those holiday motivations can sometimes trump the regular category messages that you're normally, or the motivations that you're normally using. So you want to start thinking about, if you're going to get your message seen, you want to start thinking about how do you integrate a holiday motivation into your messaging. So it's above and beyond what you're trying to sell and the motivation that drives what you sell. So you may be thinking to yourself, okay, so what are these motivations? Like, what are the holiday motivations? They come down to 3, guys. They're in the book, Marketing and Mindstates. The first one is nurturance. This time of year, families are getting together. There's a lot of care. A lot of people give gifts. That is all around the nurturance motivation, which is nurturance motivation is defined as to feel appreciated, loved, and taken care of by others, or to provide care to others. So that is something you want to integrate into your marketing now. Be more caring in your marketing. A second motivation is belonging. At this time of year, families get together, friends get together, employees get together. There's a lot of parties. So belonging is oftentimes emphasized this time of year. The need for others, the need to give to others, the need to provide for others. So you want to start thinking a little bit about bringing in belonging motivations, which is our desire for acceptance. So you would know that as to feel aligned, accepted, and connected with others. And a lot of cool things in the book that'll tell you how to do that. And the third one is one that is, of course, really important, is engagement, which is there's a lot of parties, people are interacting, there's goodwill, hopefully, there's cheer in the marketplace out there, hopefully anyways. And engagement is our desire to feel captivated, to have a moment in time where we're just excited and we're thankful. And that motivation is just defined as to feel captivated, excited, and absorbed in activity. So what I'm telling you to do, if you want to help break through kind of the competition with your emails and with your advertising, try to integrate either feelings of nurturance, belonging, or engagement, holiday cheer, and it should help you, interlink with what people naturally desire in this time of year.
I always struggle with, how do I authentically communicate the holiday motivations without looking like I'm just trying to be like everyone else, just, hey, it's Christmas time, we need to put a Christmas message on there. It feels insincere.
It does. I think you have a solution you don't think about. Steve, you came up with a solution with me probably a year ago, actually. And you and I went through a series of these talks about being incredibly human and transparent. We'll talk about that in a second. And I think 10 years ago, I was like you. Like, well, you can't put this stuff out there. You can't talk about whether, here's your faith or here's what you should be providing. You can't do that because we need to be everything to everyone. We need to be basically vanilla flavor, nothing special, because we'll reach more people. I think that world has changed, particularly after COVID, where people are expecting, and it's okay for you to define yourself and to be incredibly transparent with your stories. And so we'll talk about that later. But I think that's the way. It doesn't feel comfortable. I'll tell you that. But now what I want people to know is I truly actually love people. Like, I love my fans out there. I love doing this show. I'm not scared to say that like I was maybe a decade ago, because I'm older, more mature, but also the world changed a lot in the last year and a half. So I think what we have to do to get around that, it's not to figure out how do we do it in a messaging behavioral science way. It's to be as authentic and real as possible, because that's what's missing in the world today.
Yeah. So you talk about that people they become more optimistic this time of year as well. But I think with this new variant that they're beating the drums about and all these other fear things,
Yeah.
I think your point about belonging and connecting and nurturance is like more impactful than ever.
Could be. It could be. Just like you said, there's a lot of fear in general in all societies right now. Um, so I think it will help you differentiate even more. But remember, traditionally, and we're talking traditions that for some people in some cultures have been for hundreds and maybe even arguably thousands of years.
Mhm.
There is at the end of the year, it's oftentimes a moment of reflection and new beginnings, especially when you start thinking about the new year, New Year's Eve, things like that. There's this idea of new beginnings. And frankly, the majority of people don't look at the new years and reflect and think to themselves, I think I'm going to be worse next year. They don't do that. They're optimistic. Even if they're in a bad position, our culture rewards people to talk about the new things we're going to be. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to run a marathon. These are good things and optimistic things because we believe by doing those things, we're going to have a better year. So we reflect in the current year and aspire to something better in the new year. You should know that your messaging should also be like that. Not all messaging is always optimistic. I know it sounds like, why aren't we all optimistic? No, guys. If you read in the book, we talk about regulatory approach. And some people, their natural approach is to be cautious. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like insurance, if you're selling insurance, your job by definition is to help protect people and reduce their risk. That's a cautious way of talking to your customers. And that's what they want. But during the holidays, similar to the motivations changing, so does our natural inclinations of our desires for messaging. And so what happens is for many of us, we go into more of an optimistic mindset, which means you want to show people and talk about the future as being brighter. And that in this new future, or by working with you or whatever, that they're going to maximize better things in their life, not eliminate bad things, maximize good things. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do with this, right? Now, this may be natural to you. And for some companies, it's very natural to always be optimistic. Like I said, it doesn't have to be. But let's say if you're not that often optimistic, you are writing vanilla copy, or sometimes you even use cautious language. Like your job may be to, we help people lose weight or whatever, right? That's a cautious frame. We're going to help you eat better, or I'm sorry, not eat so bad, whatever it is. Here are some things you can do. Start focusing your messaging and your visuals and your copy around pleasure focus and the benefits and the gains people will get if they take on a certain action. Talk about the need for growth, and the need for us to aspire and the need for better, bigger, great things in our lives. Emphasize why you should change, right? Emphasize why it's so important for people to be their best selves because it impacts their family, their community, etc. You can actually, in this type of world or in this type of, when people are more optimistic, you can be more feeling in your emotions. You can put more emotional words, more emotional creative in there. You can actually even talk about people's futures, but make sure it's abstract. It's a slight little twist. When you define somebody's future so specifically that it doesn't give them the ability to kind of ideate around it and to envision something even bigger, you're limiting their ability to be optimistic and to have more optimism. So just give them hints of what's possible and let their minds fill in the blanks. It's a great way of engaging your customers. And of course, do things like, emphasize change, emphasize the opportunities that are there for the taking. Use lively gestures. You want to use faster music. We talk about this in other episodes. You want to speed up the tempo of any videos you have just slightly, because those things collectively will bring a feeling of optimism. And if people naturally feel optimistic in this time of, the end of the year, which is happening, then your message will better align with them. So be more optimistic.
I love this point here. You say, help people create new positive memories. What a nice antidote to what's going on in the world is like, here you go. We're going to ignore this because this is the most important thing right now.
So true, Steve. So I was thinking the same thing. Like time right now, when kids get out of the home, get out of school, it's stressful for parents, of all people of all ages, right? people are, your finances may be down because, there's so many gifts that you want to give. People are at work. You're getting all the deadlines have to be made right before the end of the year. Your kids now are at home. They're asking, mom, what are we going to do? Where are we going to go to eat? They want to be driven all around the neighborhood, et cetera. So it's an incredibly high stress time. And that's not even including all the stuff that we see on the news and variants and things like that. So what you can do is help people knowing that they're going to be highly stressed, knowing that your customers are going to be highly stressed. How can you help them create a new or a positive memory, some kind of a positive experience, so that next year and the year later, they can remember, boy, holiday 2020 or 2021, 2022, whatever, whenever you do this, it was really a great, couple of weeks. So things like this, I know it sounds, and I want to encourage you to think a bit abstract, but what could you do to help people facilitate making better memories? Well, the easy things that come to mind, and people do it all the time, is give recipes, give entertaining tips, give a Hallmark, these Hallmark movies. I don't watch a whole lot of them. So though apparently millions and millions and millions of people do, I probably should. These Hallmark movies, give people Hallmark movie guides, something that you can do to occupy kids, to make the holidays a little bit special, a tip, something, anything you can do that would give a stressed out mom or a stressed out dad or a stressed out anybody the ability to go, oh gosh, for a half hour, I'm going to get the kids to make this really cool gingerbread house. Actually, Nicholas asked, he wants to do a gingerbread house this year. I'm like, okay, we'll go figure it out. Or help entertain kids or do something special. If you give step-by-step instructions, you take that stress off somebody, and they even doesn't have anything to do with your company. Honest to gosh, guys, that feeling of this person or this company helped me de-stress, that feeling will over and halo onto your brand. It'll halo to your company. So don't struggle like, oh my gosh, I sell insurance. How am I going to bring the holiday spirit to you? It doesn't have to be around insurance. It can be something totally above and beyond insurance, but what you want to just have that feeling is so associated with your brand. So think in those terms. It's a long-term kind of play there.
I like the instructions, the step-by-step instructions. There's this, if I take this risk and we're going to build a gingerbread house, but I've never done it before, but my kid wants to, right? There's some anxiety there. What if I fail? What if it, and so to have step-by-step instructions like takes a lot of weight off of me. Oh, we're just going to follow this together. Oh, totally. And that's a great idea. I mean, to think of a brand that's going, look, yeah, we do insurance, but here, let's just focus on this right now. You guys want to make a gingerbread house, blah, blah, blah. And then later when you want to insure your real house, right?
I love the connect. Well, it's so funny. You just remind me. So this week I got one of these emails I saw, and I loved it actually. So what it was, I got an email. So I live in Dallas. And what it did was this email, and it had like a picture. And what it did was it showed all the neighborhoods, and I would say, and I'm going to honest to gosh, about 30-mile radius where they have light shows, and even went down to certain address, like go see this house. And it was just this great visual. I copied it on my phone. I took a picture on the phone, and all I did was slide it into my photos. But what was interesting about it, now you just said that, I looked at it as, you know what, there's going to be a night where we're going to go want to look at homes. And I don't know about your home. My home's not really totally lit up. I mean, I do a little bit, but it's not like some of these homes, right? There will be a night, Steve, that I'm going to say, hey guys, let's all go. We get hot cocoa. That's a great memory. Get the family in the car. We're going to go drive somewhere. I got an email that tells me exactly where to go, which neighborhoods, if I want to drive really far, I can, or ones that's local. And now I just thought about it. Wouldn't that connect really well? Like you go to this neighborhood and you see they have this great light show and all the neighbors are participating. And you start looking at these homes like, boy, this is this kind of neighborhood I want to live in one day. Guess where you got the email from? It was from a real estate agent. I love that. I never thought about that, but I never took it as like, you're trying to sell me, but that's a long-term idea right there. Like in the summertime, I'm like, that neighborhood, and who are you going to go to? You're going to go to that email that a real estate agent, I don't even know who this real estate agent was. I don't even know how I even got her email address or on her email list, but she's now on my phone. So that's a great way of creating a memory as opposed to, hey, great deals on homes right now, buy before the interest rates increase. Like whatever, this time of year, it doesn't make any sense to do that.
So I think that I really enjoy when you talk about personal stories or examples, you include us, and we kind of get to know just talking about the two parents That was great. But
Yeah.
these things really bond us, connect us, and make it really obvious that there's a human on the other side of this brand.
And that's, you and I've talked about it all last spring. The idea of being human could now be your most important point of competitive differentiation that you have.
Mhm.
There's so much marketing in the marketplace, in the market today. There's so many companies being, opened up every single day, and all of them are using technology to make themselves more efficient and to make costs go down. But in the process of doing that, they're becoming less and less human. So I think that when you can share a personal memory and your heart, it's meaningful. And maybe I'm just getting older, and maybe I'm just getting sentimental or whatever, but I see it work in my business. Some of my most effective emails that I ever put out there, and I just did one again for Thanksgiving, or when I don't talk anything about Mindstates or my company, and I just let my fans and people on my list, let them know how much I appreciate them. And I just did it for Thanksgiving, and I did it at the end of last year. And you'll see me do this every so often because I'm really thankful for being given this incredible opportunity to engage in a passion that I have, and make money at the same time. It's an amazing thing. And just even when you and I talked last week, Steve, about, or I guess 2 weeks ago, Thanksgiving memories, right? And I was talking about the turkey bowl. And how my mom would get so mad because we as kids would go out, we'd go find anyone we could to play football, and I'd come back with bruises and cuts on my face, and I wouldn't even wash. I'd just sit at the table, and she would get mad, but deep down inside, she thought that was kind of cute, right? I was dirty or whatever, and she liked it. Or, I think about Christmas. I don't know if we'll talk about this, I'm sure, when Christmas comes up close, but I think I have memories of surfing, or at least boogie boarding in Florida when I was growing up. Like, that stuff it's cool to me. And I want to share those memories. And even if the memory doesn't necessarily mean anything to you, the fact that I am doing it makes me more human. And if I am more human, you're going to build a greater bond with me, regardless whether you think my stories are stupid or not. At least there's somebody on the other end of, like you said, on the other end of that brand.
One of my clients, we're having a problem because he's in an industry that's highly regulated, and every single message has to be approved, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like running a marathon. You've done those Ironmans, or did you do Ironman or Copperman?
I had no copper here, baby. Iron, straight iron.
So, but imagine if you had to compete against them. Everyone's there in their Nike shoes and their short shorts and a tank top, and that's it. But you've got to show up in a full fireman gear, hosed down with water, and compete. And that's what it's like in his industry. So what we're talking about is that he's going to go and just start a totally different thing where he interviews folks in the community, and just kind of be an advocate of the community.
Yeah.
Introducing you all these great people in the community and what they're doing and how they're making life better. And what you're going to do is get a connection of a good feeling. And then when you think about what he does, he's your default answer.
That is a aggressive but really smart move, Steve. I work with clients in highly regulated industries as well, and I often tell them all the time. I say, the hardest part about your job is not what to say; it's being allowed to say it. And I always feel bad for them. I mean, we go round and round. Can't use that word. That word's, you can't use this. You can't promise this. I've always been trying to figure out the innovative solution around the words. What you've done is basically say, maybe you just can't do it. So why not just create that association, that halo effect from, has nothing to do with that industry to the person in the company. It's actually, I'm going to take that with me. Honestly, it's real. I was just on a call in a very highly regulated industry, and it's going to come up where they're going to say, we can't do that. We can't do that. And I was like, well, then maybe the pivot is, don't talk about your industry at all. Stop doing it. Right?
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Just imagine he's doing these conversations, but it can be sponsored by his company.
Yeah. You can do that. Yeah.
Right.
So interesting. I love it.
But think about that person. They've got to take a risk and go, okay, I'll just create positive memories. I'll share personal stories. I'll create these stories, and then people will bond and appreciate that. And it's authentic. It's sincere. But the whole reason you do these conversations is because after someone is around you or meets you or talks to you over 7 times, there's this psychological thing that happens where trust is formed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we're wanting to do. Why does
Mm-hmm.
it have to be about your business all the time?
Yeah, I think this brings up a point that you've actually coached me on, but I've only just recently wrapped my head around this idea, is that that's the long-term play. Building a human connection and this trust is the long-term play. But in our society today, we are not rewarded for long-term. Well, we are. We just don't know we're rewarded. We always seek like the sales. I didn't make revenues today. I didn't make revenues this week or whatever. And I remember you telling me when we first started working together, talking about even the show is going to be important years from now. But I didn't hear that. I heard, yeah, the show will probably take off. I'm thinking about what, maybe 9-10 episodes in, like, all right, because that's the world we usually we live in. And, I'm sure that your client probably won't feel the financial benefits today. When he does that show, won't it'll be discouraging, I bet. But he's not playing for today, and he's not even playing for next year. And that's the part I struggle with. Like, well, where's the return? The return comes after consistency and knowing and building that such a customer trust that years from now, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, if it has to be, that you are the go-to authority icon for this person because they've just grown up with you. They know you now. So I love what you just said, but it's also reminding people it's the long-term game, and the long-term game is the most effective game. It's the most important game. I hate saying that, but it just is.
Speaking of long-term, it's like every holiday is going to come around again. Mm-hmm. And so to have fun, it's the holidays after all, is a great point.
It is. I just think that we forget sometimes because we all are so stressed. You have numbers you're trying to make. I have numbers I'm trying to make. I have deadlines before the end of the year. And that stuff can actually, that feeling, that anxiety can actually come out of your own body, if you will, in the copy that you're writing. And you may not even know it, but your copy can actually have a feeling of almost apprehension. It just comes out. It's natural. And so just remember, guys, like, this is not the time to be super serious. I don't know many of industries that you have to be super serious right now. In fact, like just you and I just talked about a little while ago, Steve, was that there's a lot of seriousness in the world right now, all over the world. And maybe what the world needs is a little silliness. Mm-hmm. And so have fun. It's the holidays. We wear crazy winter, these Christmas sweaters on purpose. We bake when we send, fruitcakes to people that we love as a joke. We have white elephant gifts or whatever. We have these parties where people do gift exchanges. We have Shelf and the Elf now, or Elf on a Shelf, sorry, and memes that are trying to get these elves banned, right? Like, just have fun with it, guys. World's really tough. Me and a guy were just talking about this last night with raising children. And we said, the world's a really tough place. So if I can kind of give moments of levity, because the world is going to take our kids, man. It's going to make it tough on these kids. But if I can just give these moments of levity, these moments of happiness, have fun, that's what's needed more in the world today. So have fun with it. Don't overthink it. If something doesn't work, don't get mad at yourself. Just do it from the heart. If you do it from the heart, you're going to be in a great place with your business. I promise.
Yeah. And then just you think about your marketing message. Why so serious? You can have some fun. And that's why those Geico commercials, that I giggle, but they're effective.
Yeah. Hey, who thinks insurance companies are fun? Well, somebody made Geico pretty fun for the last, 20 years now or whatever. It's a long time since those caveman commercials came out. So now I'm with you, man. Just have fun. It's a fun time of season. You and I, we have fun. Things go wrong. We're not streaming to LinkedIn right now. What do we do? Am I going to get mad at that? No, have fun with it, man. World's too complex. We're too serious. Enjoy it.
Okay, so now it's that time. We got these questions that you're great at. Number one, you ready for this?
Okay.
What are your favorite consumer behavior theories, Will?
Whoa, this is wow. All right. Good. What are my favorite consumer behavior theories? I'm going to go with 2. The first one was something that I learned about a decade ago, and it solved a lot of problems for me. And it's this thing called the theory of planned behavior. And basically, I'm not going to get into it. You can read all about it. Maybe we'll do an episode about it one day. But theory of planned behavior is this idea that we have intentions to change a behavior, to do something. However, sometimes we don't take on that behavior. Well, how do you change intentions? Like, how do you get your intentions people's intentions so excited, or their intentions so strong that they'll follow through with the behavior? It comes down to 3 things: people's attitudes and then their beliefs. You want to incorporate subjective norms, which is this idea that making sure that people know that society or people are looking for them to take on that action, or it's a socially desirable action to take. And lastly, a feeling of control. So if you can tell people or help people say that, yes, you want to do this. Secondly, other people like you are doing this. And third, you're going to have a lot of control when you do it. Those will increase intentions, and those things will actually increase behavior. Theory of planned behavior. I love it. There's a lot of different derivatives of it now, but theory of planned behavior is a great one. Second one is the one that I, of course, talk about all the time. It's Mindstate Marketing. It's understanding that people's behaviors are driven by their goals, their motivations, their approach to decision-making, as well as heuristics, or what we call triggers. So those are my two favorite ones. They both kind of do some of the same things. Mine is much more, Mindstate Marketing is much more focused on subconscious drivers, where theory of planned behavior are oftentimes more focused on conscious, rational drivers. You put them both together, you get some really cool stuff.
Excellent. Excellent. So what is the difference between jobs to be done and goals?
Okay. Yeah. So this is for somebody out there in the business world, I'm sure. So for those, you may not know what jobs to be done is. Clayton Christensen, a couple of years ago, wrote a book. I forget what it's called. It's probably behind me some here, but basically he talks about jobs to be done. It's a term out there that a lot of consultants use, but basically the idea is that people don't buy products. People don't buy services. He says that people buy a job that needs to be done in their life. So then the idea is it's a new way of thinking about your innovations, mostly in innovation. I think it's mostly used for innovation. I've used it for some other things. So ultimately, it's understanding the job or the thing that people are trying to have done, and therefore message or build products that make that job attainable. Goals are very similar. You're probably thinking to yourself, well, how is that different from goals? I actually don't think it's different from goals at all. Goals and goal theory is all just saying we have these functional things we want to do, and then we have an aspiration behind why we want to do those things. Those are aspirational goals. So if you think about jobs to be done and goals, functional goals, I use those words interchangeably quite often. So if I have my corporate clients, they think in the world of jobs to be done, I will actually modify my language. And rather than talking about goals, I'll talk about here's your jobs to be done. You have 4 jobs to be done, but the aspiration behind those jobs to be done is blank. That's no different than what my book talks about in goals. So I think that they're the same thing, really.
Excellent. Outside of marketing, where can Mindstate Marketing be applied?
Yes. Interesting enough, I want everybody to know that even though the book is called Marketing to Mind States, the model behind it is a human behavior model. It is not a marketing model at all. I just apply it to marketing because that's my passion. That's what I love. But the idea of a mind state is these moments in time where there's high emotional arousal, where people are susceptible to influence. And these influences drive behavioral change. So think about any industry that is focused on changing a behavior or at least influencing a behavior. So I think about management. If you're in management, you're probably thinking about how can I get the best out of my employees? If you're in sales, you're thinking to yourself, how can I get a better sale? How can I sell something better across the table? Customer service. Somebody's calling into my care center. How can I create an experience that gets this customer to calm down when they're really, really frustrated and that we can work to solve a problem together? But it goes on beyond. Think about negotiations. I was thinking about treaties, right? Or politics. Politicians or negotiations with labor contracts, right? If you're trying to influence the person across the table. Organizational behavior like change management could use this. Think about if you're a teacher. I just recently got my first client as a teacher recently, which is a really interesting dynamic. And she wants to be a better teacher. Well, if I understood the mind state of my students and how to get them more motivated to learn, that would be an important thing to do if I was a teacher. I'd get them to do their homework more often. And then anything like that, like coaching, parenting. So in your mind, if you were thinking to yourself, I want to learn how to do the best marketing, it's a great book for you. If you're also just trying to learn how to be a better parent, it's a great book for you. Just take away all my examples off of marketing and think about how do you apply the same concept to your life. So with that, anything you do that has anything to do with human behavior, Mindstate Marketing or this idea of mind states is really, really useful for you.
So look here, we're having fun. Broadcast isn't working, but Monica's, and that's cool. The broadcast,
it is cool.
Yeah.
But she even reached out, even if it's not streaming. I'm going to send her something. I'm going to send her something for saying that. I got to get her to see the YouTube, because we're on YouTube, right? So it'll come up. Hopefully it'll record. But if not, maybe I'll just take it from YouTube and drop it onto my LinkedIn or whatever. I'm glad that Monica hung in there.
So I love this about the book. When I read this book, what really clicked for me is that, the trap is that we design a one size fits all messaging. But when we think about it, one size doesn't fit all in any scenario, whether it's medicine or food or clothing or whatever. So why would your messaging be a one size fits all? And to understand the concepts in this book is that we go through the day in all sorts of states of mind. And especially when we tee up for a decision, we enter a certain common state of mind. And if you can understand that about the folks that are considering your solution, then you would modify your messaging and it would be more impactful and it would feel more like you understand me. And I would feel like I'd have more trust. That's the whole reason that you want to do this. So I love what you're talking about. Same thing with leading your kids. If you understand their state of mind when they're thinking about some decision that's important, how nice would it be that you would make them feel understood instead of preached to, right?
I agree. I totally agree with you. And one thing that that is important, I actually just heard this, was that this is not a personality profile. It is not a cohort. It is not a segment. It's not a new thing for you. Oh, I already have a segmentation. I already have a personality profile. I already have a DISC assessment. It's none of those things. It's about a moment in time that makes your DISC assessment or your personality profile, your segmentation, or your customer profile, or whatever, your persona, better. So think of it that way, guys. Because I know sometimes this stuff can be intimidating. It's like, don't I already have that? Don't I kind of already have a kind of a what do you call them? The most valuable consumer profile? No problem. This makes that profile much richer with insight.
So that's a nice segue. So how do I apply this? I read the book, but I need some help. That's the thing about the book, is that I've applied some of it. You've helped me, but other people come to you. Tell us about the Mindstate marketing class.
That's right. So it was, there are people that have read the book, or they just know that they want to have some help. And the book will tell you some great examples, and it gives you some exercises. But what you may want to do is actually go to a masterclass. And the masterclass is a do-it-yourself package you can find on the mindstategroup.com. And what you do is you can go to the masterclass, you can sign up for it, and you'll get over 12 hours of video content where not only do I explain the key principles in much greater depth around Mindstate marketing, but we actually go through a case study together, module by module, of showing how we built a brand from the bottom up using Mindstate marketing, which is now one of the fastest growing snack brands out there. So it's a great way of a do-it-yourself way of really understanding the principles behind Mindstate marketing. So if you want to kind of take it to the next step, think about the masterclass. And then the second thing, which we don't talk a lot about, but it's, I think, arguably the most important thing I sell, is what we call the partnership program, which is where we work together, you and I, for 12 weeks, where we're working hand in hand to build out all the components you need to build this idea of an iconic brand, like all the things you need: a purpose, a distinct point of view, a vision, a persona for you and your company. And then we teach you how to take those attributes and bring them out to the world in a way that will make you become kind of stand above others, in your marketplace. I think about it from evolving from being an expert in your field to becoming iconic in your industry, so that you are getting calls to come and present on stage. You are having media calls. You are being asked to come onto podcasts, things like that. So it's making this transition from your business, where you may kind of be a little bit kind of in a state of mediocrity, to elevating your business to the next level. So that's called the partnership program. And you can learn a little bit more about that if you go to mindstategroup.com.
All right. Well, great episode on how to get your messaging seen and acted on this holiday season. So you're not going to the Bahamas for Christmas. Where are you going next?
Here's what I heard. I heard this through the grapevine when I was on the boat. And I think there's a little bit of wine happening. So I don't know if my memory's off or they were forming new memories. But I think I heard that I may be driving on Christmas Day to Louisiana to go see Melanie's family. And that's okay. I'm kind of okay with that. I have Christmas here in my house on that morning, but maybe that afternoon we take off. So I think I'm going to Louisiana. Nice and warm down there.
There's Natchitoches, Louisiana has a beautiful Christmas
Oh,
by the river. I think the Charles River is what it is.
okay.
It's a great place. Louisiana's a great place to have Christmas.
We drive past, I've never stopped, but we drive past that on the way to Patterson, Louisiana, to where her family's from. So her family's way, way down on the Gulf. She's in the place where that Cantori guy, when the hurricanes come, he always goes down to her town. It's like, here's the hurricanes coming. So when it's Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel, he's pretty buff. Yeah. That's the guy. When he comes to your town, you don't want to be there. That's her town. So I think we go through Natchitoches, I think, or however you pronounce it.
Natchitoches, yeah. Stop in there, and it's a great thing that they do. All right, so we're going to do this outro. You ready?
Ready.
So, did you guys know we're now a podcast? Be sure to listen to the podcast on Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, all the places that you love to listen. Also, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, the Mindstate channel on YouTube, where all of these videos live. We'll have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, guys.